Hi everyone, my name's Lou Sims and a huge welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be creating an art journal page, mixing up my Shady Designs stamps and also my latest new craft purchase, which is the Personal Impressions Woodless watercolour pencils. I want to use the pencils to create both the background, colour my stamped images, add absolutely everything. Now I'm working on an A4 art journal. So for the background, I have actually just made it into landscape mode, and I'm going to use a mixture of colours. And I've used the pencil on this side so I can get down as much colour as quickly as possible. Now the pencils blend out with water, and they're highly pigmented. And what I've actually got to love about these pencils, and more from playing with them, is that once one layer's dry and you put another layer of pencil on the top, it doesn't actually activate the layer below, which when you're doing an art journal page, that's an absolute bonus. So as I said, I'm creating the background and I'm doing it landscape because when I flip my journal around to be A4 portrait, you'll see it'll fill most of my screen. And I just really wanted to see, well, not see, show you how quickly you could create the background. I'm heat setting mine with a heat tool just for the purpose of this video, but normally I would put it to one side. Taking a little bit of the crayon, I'm actually just going to water it down, and I just want to do a few splats on the background. Very subtle, but it just brings in another colour. As I said, it's going to be very subtle, but it's there. Now the next part is adding some stamping to it. I'm using, as I said, my Shady Designs a little bit more stamp set, and I want to start building up the background areas. Now you get this feature here, which can be half a tag, but it also can make these really cool journaling block shapes. So I'm going to stamp this. I'm trying to think. It's one of those things, when I start out, I know I'm roughly where I'm going to stamp, and then I have to look at what gaps are left and see whether another part needs to be in there or doesn't. I don't have a set plan. Just go where my eye's starting to see where I think like there's lighter parts of colour or there's darker parts of colour where I think I can build up the next layer of stamping. So I'm going to keep going and, gradually just fill up the page. Well, I suppose not necessarily fill up, but actually have different areas which I can then be focal points on the art journal page. Now, I'm faffing a little bit here because this is where I'm trying to work out, does it need more, does it need less? And actually I went for it actually needed less. So next, taking another part from the same stamp set, you get these like wonderful dangles. And I'm actually decided this time to use a brown VersaFine ink because I thought it went beautifully with the soft greens and yellows of the background rather than using a black. So I'm now filling in the gaps. I'm working out, I want to have some dangles. I want to build up the page that way, that it looks like you've done a lot of stamping, but actually when we look back through the video, we haven't. We've probably used 3 or 4 stamps to create the whole of the background. And that's what I wanted from when I designed the Shady Design range, was that it was minimal stamping, but made it look like you've done a lot of complicated stamping. Now, taking one of the extra stamps there, I'm going to dip the watercolour pencil directly, as you can see, into my water pot and colour the actual stamp out. And I want to actually start layering up. So this colour now works in. So I've got a green that works with my background because this was the starting green. So taking and colouring to a stamp is a lovely quick way if you don't always have ink pads that match your background, because I could have used the lighter green that I started with, but I just want this one to stand out a little bit more. And by just dipping the pencil into the water pot or even spritzing, it will just make it go that little bit further. So you can create more of a watercolored look by keep spritzing it, because there'll be less and less definition. Or if you want it to be more intense, you keep adding, the pencil on top. And I'm just filling each of my little blocks, I don't know what else to call them, with this starting point, using the foliage. Sorry, I'm going all waffly and I didn't mean to be like that. Now the tissue there is just so I keep it within the block. Again, I'm actually just going to dry this off, and that's mainly for the video purposes. As I said, normally I would let it dry naturally. Now, as I said earlier on in the video, one of the benefits to me that I've learnt with these pencils is that once one layer's dry and you put another pencil layer on top, it doesn't activate the layer underneath. It might, the colour intensity is there, but it doesn't actually make the layer underneath move. So I'm filling in all the dangles, for want of a better phrase, all the areas where there's leaves with the same green colour, so it ties in with the other stamping that I've just done. And I'm just going to watercolour them out with a little bit of water. So now I've got the stamped areas, tying in with the same colour families. I'm just going to keep going until I get to the very end. Next, I'm going to take like a carmine, a deep red pink, and I'm filling in the other areas on the stamp to look like as flowers, I suppose, or stylized flowers. And it brings another colour into the art journal page and breaks up a little bit of all the greens. So, just that tiny little pop of colour. And again, I'm colouring straight on top of my background, and I'm going to watercolour them in. So I can create light and dark straight away. I've scribbled a little bit of the colour onto my mat so I can pick up more intensity of the colour if that's what I want to do, or I can water it out a little bit more to make it a little bit of a shadowing. So I'm creating dark and light. That was a long way round of saying that, wasn't it? In one go. And I'm just going to keep going and fill in all the other areas that I've done. Now, I'm going to say I'm not going for uber neat colouring, because I think when you're doing a background, you can take a little bit of pressure off yourself by just colouring however you want to go, whether that's, neatly, fast, slow, because it is going to be in the background. So as I said, I'm just going to carry on filling in those areas using up that colour. Right, I'm going to be honest and say I'm doing a voiceover for this, and it will come across as being random, and I will go off in a different direction at times, and I apologise. I hope I get as much of the information as down as possible. If I don't, anything I miss, I do write up a matching blog post. I will link to that in the comments below. So please, pop over to the blog and, you can see anything missing. I will list all the supplies I'm using both in the description box below and also over on my blog too. If you're new to my channel, I'd love it if you became a subscriber, hit the notifications button, like the video, and if you have time, leave a comment too. That would be absolutely wonderful. Now I felt that the boxes could do, I don't know, with a little bit more outlining, a little bit more definition. So I've taken the sky blue pencil and I've just gone around the outside, and I'm just going to pick one side just to create a little bit of element of a shadow effect. And I'm going straight onto the page here, and as before, I'm just going to watercolor them out. And obviously blue and yellow make green, so it was a great choice to actually go together, and it's a light shadow rather than going for a dark brown or a black. For the next stage, I really did have to make sure that the page was dry, because I want to bring in my Micron pens. And all the smaller elements, I'm using a Micron pen, but it's a dark brown, so it ties in with like the VersaFine Clair ink I was used earlier. And I'm going to fill in all those little details, well, that I didn't really want to watercolour because they were a little bit too small, and actually I'm quite quicker with the Micron pen. I also thought they would tie in the stamping details. Again, it's bringing in all the different colours that I've used, whether it was on the stamped outlines, and it ties everything in together. Now, to make the dangles look like they're just not in the middle of nowhere, what I thought would be nice is to actually create some vertical lines, and I'm using the lines on the block to make it look like I've weaved in and out, or like different threads are going in and out of those blocks to tie in with the dangles down below. And all I'm doing is I'm going to draw like 3 little dots and then join the lines up that way. I just think in my head it just makes it a little bit easier. Well, not easier, it makes it a little bit neater. And then if you make a mistake, drawing those dots actually covers all of those. And I'm going to do it for all of the dangles. And I'm going to make it go right to the very, very top of my page. So it looks like, the whole of the art journal page starts at the top and is flowing all the way down to the bottom. Now, I hope that makes sense. Right, so you can see where I've finished off all those dangles and all the lines. Now, if you prefer get a ruler out, I prefer just to draw them up because I just think it's a little bit more natural. I'm using a darker green just to go over my first lot of stamped leaves, and I'm sticking to the same stamp, but I just want the original leaves now to recede into the background. So it's obviously creating another layer, and I'm just going to do it on each of the different blocks. I'm just going to move them in a different direction. The card is just there just so all that stamping stays within those block areas. So once I'm happy, I'm just going to put my background to one side and let it, I suppose, dry a little bit more. So now I want to create some added extra bits, and I will stamp lots, and I normally stamp more than I actually need, but that gives me more freedom of choice then to add more elements if I want to my journal page, or I've got then elements to use for another another project, whether it's a card or an art journal page. And I'm using a mixture of the accessory stamps you get from a bit more stamp set, and I'm going to use the flowers, some leaves, and some stylized shapes, and I want to use them to create all my different backgrounds. Once I've decided, what elements I want to use, I'm going to now colour them, and then once they're coloured, I will cut them all out, ready to add to the page. I'm still going to use the same pencils, which are the Personal Impressions Woodless watercolour pencils. I had to write that down so I didn't say something really bizarre or random. And I'm sticking to a similar colour palette that I've already done for my background, because I think that then helps tie things in as well, and you've got pops of colour because they're now on a white background, but they match in with what's already there. Right, so I've coloured, as you can see, I'm colouring away quite happily and merrily. I'm only going to do a small selection for the video, but as you can see, there are other ones up there to colour in as well. And then I'm going to sit down with a cup of coffee. I will pause the video and cut all these different elements out, which I actually thoroughly enjoy doing. I find that I tune out when I'm cutting lots of little bits out. One of the other things I did think about doing, and I ummed and ahed about this, and I thought, shall I, shan't I? I actually stamped the same like journal block shape again on the same white card as I did my embellishment pieces from. I wasn't sure I was going to use it, but I thought, well, I'll cut it and see. Because originally in my head, all the different stamped elements were actually going to go on the background as is. But I just thought this might add another focal point, which then means all that background building we've done actually becomes a background, and we've now created another layer which becomes, our focal point. And after I cut it out and lay it down on the page, I actually went, yeah, do you know what? I actually want to use you now. So I've decided that, I'm going to use it on my page and then build all the other elements that I've stamped and cut out actually around that piece there. And I will stick them in, behind pieces, on top of pieces. I do love to faff around and, put pieces here, put pieces there, and just absolutely change where they're all going to go. And I think that's part, for me, that's part of, putting the process, is actually doing that. For my sentiment, when I was tidying up, I came across a whole host of Tim Holtz stickers I had. And these ones, which I forgot that I completely had, are actually foiled. So I decided on a sentiment that I actually wanted to use. And all I'm doing is matching it to some card and using the pencil to go around the edge. I want to place the sentiment so I can put a lot more of the other embellishments around the sentiment. So a different way of grounding up my sentiment to the page. I was trying to think of a way of describing it, but that's the only way I can think of describing it. So once I've got all the different elements, on, I'm happy. I am going to take the black pencil, but I'm really pressing very, very lightly. I want a little bit of shadow, but I don't want it to be standing out. I want it also to blend into the background. It's there, but you've still got to look for it. It doesn't, it's not going to use jazz hands and shout out and go, hello, I'm here. That's not quite the look I was going for. I just wanted to create a shadow down where the elements were. So I suppose they had a chance to stand out in their own right as well. Using my white pen, I'm just going to flick some white bits on. It decided to have a little bit of a hissy fit, so I'm shaking it, the living daylights out of it, as you can see. Obviously, after the video, it worked absolutely perfectly, as is the way. So now this is a close-up of the finished page. You can see that everything ties together. I love the dangles, and I just think that's a great way of elongating a page. There's lots more photographs over on my blog so you can see the finished image. Thanks ever so much for your time today, and I can't wait to see you all again soon. Take care.